Thank you so much, my friend, Mr. Ngomeli. We go back for quite a distance, and it is always a pleasure to be in a meaningful conversation. Uh, so, okay. Thank you. So, a view from the bottom. I like that topic because it resonates very well with where the future of energy is going. Now, this is another elephant in the room. I think there have been quite a number of elephants today, and the discussion on renewable energy, I'm sure many are wondering, why is somebody from renewable energy here? First of all, my professional roots are in petroleum. My first professional job was a refinery technologist. I was responsible for the production of petrol and some LPG and hydrotreating to remove the sulfur and other things. And I learned my ropes in petroleum. Today, I speak energy fluently in all languages. I want this to be interactive. I do not like lectures. I do not like to be lectured. I like to interact. So I have a number of questions. The first question is about climate. In this room, and I'm talking to those under 30, are you aware of the direction that climate is having on energy? Just by a show of hands, under 30s. Are you aware the impact that you can have or will have in that direction? The reason I talk to this category is that the population of Africa is the youngest in the world. It's the fastest growing. We will have 100 million people in Kenya in 2050 to 2060. You will be there. You will be as old as I am today when that happens. And when that happens, I know there's a lot of talk of doom and gloom around climate. But since we're in a room of business people, I want to talk about the business opportunity of climate and renewable energy. Let's do it with an example. I orient myself to the single sovereign individual investor. That is the single pump petrol station owner. I think the lady from Nyandarua. Yes. So I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to everybody else. Because when I see a room full of people in the petroleum industry, I see a room full of people with potential to become what the CS was talking about, to become the sheikhs of Saudi Arabia, the oligarchs of Russia, and the emirs of the Emirates. We have that opportunity. Let's take 100,000 shillings. If you invest 100,000 shillings, and I will throw my friend Wesley from Equity under the bus. If you take a loan of 100,000 shillings, how much petrol will you buy? And what profit margin will you make? And in how long will you be able to make that sale? So from the conversation, there have been a lot of talks about margins. I've seen that 100,000 can buy you 547 liters of petrol that you can sell and make 1,896 shillings approximately, depending on the margin. So let's look at renewable energy. How much money will you make if you invest today 100,000 shillings in solar panels that are charging batteries directly, no inverters, just harvesting all that energy with a loss of less than maybe 1 or 2% in the conversion, because it's going straight into the battery. When you talk of fuel and loss, I worked at the refinery. The fuel and loss at the refinery was more than all the LPG consumed by the whole country of Kenya. That is the impact of fuel and loss. So I really feel you when you talk about it. And when you have such razor-thin margins, then fuel and loss can wipe out the entire business. So in renewable energy, you're not losing, and the supply is abundant. It is unlimited. And here's the news: Africa has the majority. So the future of renewable energy is Africa. We have the population, we have the demand, we have the energy. What we need is what the gentlemen from EPRA are doing, and they are doing a great job. And it's not me saying, it is the top regulator or the second top regulator in Africa. We have a conducive environment. I've had this conversation. We had it 10 years ago. The transition from kerosene to solar for lighting happened within my professional lifetime. And the transition to electric mobility is going to happen. So what is the role of the Petroleum Outlet Association? What is the opportunity? Let's go back to that 100,000. With 100,000, harvesting all the energy, not losing it in conversion through an inverter, putting it directly into batteries, putting those batteries straight onto border borders, because we are talking to hustlers, to the border borders. How much money will you make? We've seen you make 1,896 on petrol, 1,125. If you harvested 1 kilowatt, and I know we don't like physics and mathematics, but here we are talking about money. So it's good to pay attention. If you harvested 1 kilowatt, on a cloudy day like today, you will get 4 to 5 peak hours of sunshine in the battery. That's 5 kilowatt hours. Each kilowatt hour, even if you choose the reserve price set by EPRA, which is 5.8 US cents per kilowatt hour. Let's just assume that is what you choose. Then, in a period of 1 day, you will be making, just a second, this won't take long. You'll be making about about 300 shillings. And you'll be making this money for the next 25 years from the single investment. Your annual return depending on the price, your annual return is going to be over 25% on that investment. Back to the single station, 1 kilowatt of solar needs about 20 square meters. You can do it on any roof. So that becomes a resource. That becomes an opportunity. And that becomes a way that we can look at margin. Let me speak it in petroleum, in shillings per liter. You see, we sell energy in different units, but because I have worked in petroleum, I've worked in solar, I've worked in wind, I've worked in biomass, biogas, even nuclear, all energy can be translated into shillings per kilowatt hour because liters are not an energy unit. Kilowatt hours are. So when they say petroleum is expensive, I say compared to what? If you translate the cost of petroleum from 177.3 shillings per liter into kilowatt hours, it is 18.7 shillings per kilowatt hour. It is not even, it is, electricity is 24, even 25 shillings per kilowatt hour for domestic. Petrol, the price that people are complaining about, is 18. So what's going to happen when you buy the solar for 1 kilowatt, your cost of generation, if I'm to translate it into shillings per kilowatt hour, is less than 3 shillings. The current market price for petroleum, which is energy for transportation, is 18 shillings per kilowatt hour. You are operating on very razor-thin margins and you are surviving. You need to give yourselves a heavy clap. Now imagine what will happen when your cost of product, if you buy that 1 kilowatt and put it on your 20 meters squared, your cost of product, this is without the loans, without the interest, just the cost, is around 25 shillings per liter, equivalent of petrol at 177 shillings per liter. There are 3 things that cause for transformation, for energy transition. Number 1, is it cheaper to the consumer? That is how solar became cheaper than kerosene. Because as the price of kerosene went up and the financing mechanisms of solar came in, people could see that I can pay 40 shillings a day for 200 days or whatever period, or I spend 60 shillings a day on kerosene. And the differential, the anti-adulteration, helped with that. And the transition has happened. Today, Kenya has the highest access to electricity anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa outside of South Africa. So this is also another opportunity. And it needs to be done in a way that is fair to all concerned. The people that are in this room, if what the CS said is true, and I think he knows what he's talking about, you have the price, you have the market. So the question is, how are you going to handle this opportunity? Going back to the 100,000, when you buy a solar panel, you prepay electricity for 25 years. So when you buy a 100 or a 1 kilowatt solar system, you have effectively bought the equivalent of about 4,800 liters of petrol that you will sell over the next 25 years. So today, I'm here to invite you to consider blending in this, not from a perspective of you are trying to respond to climate change from a mitigation point of view. I think there's a lot of jargon there. We are not responsible but we have an opportunity. But the sheer business opportunity that renewable energy presents. The losses we talk about when you're talking about renewable energy are thin. My friend is here, we're talking the smart meters. The percentage that we're talking there is 0.01%. That's the accuracy level, that's the loss. And the resource requires no transportation. You don't even need to use the electricity grid to move your product from one place to another. You just have to ask yourself the question, will the sun rise over Kenya today? And yes, it will for the next 25 years. So I think I could have a longer discussion. I wish we had more time. But today, I'm really honored that I congratulate my friend, Mr. Njogu. I'm grateful, Mr. Chomba, for putting this together. And I think we now need to engage in that serious discussion about transition. I think every independent petrol station should have a solar charging port for electric bikes. And that is my submission. Thank you.